Before we talk in detail about the new Bollywood release HAQ, a social legal drama directed by Suparn S. Verma, starring Yami Gautam and Emraan Hashmi, I just want to put it out there. Yami Gautam is exceptional in this film. She has always been an underrated actress, quietly delivering strong performances one after another. But in HAQ, she takes it to another level. She's so brilliant and emotionally precise that it's impossible to take your eyes off her or find a fault in her performance. She was phenomenal in Article 370 and truly deserved the Filmfare recognition. But as we all saw, merit doesn't always win when influence takes over. As social media rightly points out, sometimes awards are less about talent and more about connections. So if she's overlooked again this year, it won't be surprising, just deeply unfair, especially with Love and War slated for a 2026 release. Anyways, story and context. Set in a post-independence India, HAQ revolves around Shah Bano, played by Yami Gautam, a woman whose life changes dramatically after her marriage to Ahmed Khan, played by Emraan Hashmi. Over time, tensions rise. Ahmed brings another woman, Saira, played by Vartika Singh, into the house under the guise of humanitarian grounds. The relationship fractures, and Shazia ultimately finds herself in court fighting for her most basic right, her HAQ, to survive through alimony and dignity. The film is inspired by the book Bano, Bharat ki Beti by Jigna Vora and loosely draws from the landmark 1985 Supreme Court judgment of Ahmed Khan versus Shah Bano Begum, which dealt with maintenance rights of Muslim women after divorce. Though Shah Bano's family petitioned against the film's release, fearing it might harm their mother's legacy, the filmmakers clarified that HAQ is not a factual retelling but a fictionalized dramatization inspired by those themes. Before we dive into why HAQ deserves to be watched, and it absolutely does, especially to understand how generations of women have struggled and evolved into what they are today, it's important to acknowledge where the film falters. For a movie positioned as a courtroom drama, HAQ surprisingly spends too much time outside the courtroom. The narrative devotes nearly the entire first half to personal melodrama and emotional setup. While setting context is important, the film stretches this part for beyond necessity, slowing the pace and testing the audience's patience. In a 136-minute runtime, approx, if a courtroom drama doesn't immerse you in its legal exchanges and verbal duels, it's missing its very essence. I was genuinely looking for a 2x button or a snooze button. When a courtroom finally takes center stage in the second half, it's engaging but fleeting. The proceedings move too quickly, almost rushed. As a non-Muslim viewer, I wanted to grasp the legal nuances, the logic behind the rulings, the debate between faith and law. But the film breezes past those details, merely dropping legal references rather than dwelling into them. It feels like the filmmakers were eager to check the legal boxes and move on. The irony is that the second half had the fire. Had they slowed it down, deepened the arguments, and expanded on those courtroom confrontations, HAQ could have achieved brilliance. Overall, the film neglects the larger context on the 1985 Shah Bano judgment and fails to explore its ripple effect. It does tell us what happened, but not why it mattered, historically, politically, or emotionally. The tone sometimes slip into over-dramatization, where a more grounded and realistic approach could have made the message far more powerful. The film also hesitates to fully explore the tension between religious law and constitutional law. You can sense that the makers wanted to comment on it but chose restraint, playing it safe to avoid religious backlash. I totally understand it and I give it to them, but okay. The language in HAQ deserves a mention too. At times, it's beautifully written, a graceful blend of Urdu and legal Hindi that lends authenticity, but at some moments it becomes a little overly didactic. And then comes the last courtroom scene that leaves me conflicted. On one hand, it's emotionally charged and powerfully performed by both Yami Gautam and Emraan Hashmi, Their arguments carry weight, their emotions feel raw. But on the other hand, the Supreme Court sequence feel hurried and overly cinematic. The resolution arrives through 2 or 3 dialogues, and then what it truly needed was a full-fledged verbal battle of ideas and evidence. Law, after all, is built not just on words but on proof, and that aspect feels absent. The scene feels powerful, but it could have been powerful. It had everything, but I feel it just missed the mark. Yet, despite those flaws, HAQ is a film that must be watched, because when it gets things right, it really gets them right. For one, it deserves credit for not shying away from one of the most sensitive issues in India, the clash between religious law and constitutional law, particularly in the context of Muslim women's right in marriage and divorce. It's a subject that continues to divide opinions even today. Mishandled, it could have easily sparked outrage or controversy. But the filmmakers approach it with care, choosing conversations over confrontations. What I personally loved is how the film didn't talk about Muslims in abstraction. It talks about Indian Muslims. It treats them as a part of India's shared fabric, whether Hindu, Muslim, Sikh or Isai. The film reminds us that India belongs to all, and so should its laws and its justice, whether men or women. HAQ bravely addresses the intersections of religion, gender and the justice system, a trait that few mainstream Hindi films dare to touch. It revisits the debate, women's rights versus religious orthodox, but through a deeply human story rather than a lecture. Despite its heavy emotional tone, the film remains respectful towards all communities. And the most admirable part, it questions inequality without sounding anti-religious. That balance of empathy without offense is what makes HAQ a mature, responsible piece of cinema. Some beautiful dialogues which show that even females are humans at the end of the day, like इंसान किसी धर्म का मोहताज नहीं होता. Also, Vishal Mishra's music enhances that emotional depth beautifully. His use of sitar, piano and ambient vocal layers in the courtroom scenes adds a quiet dignity, avoiding the melodramatic trap that so many courtroom dramas fall into. HAQ reignites discussions about rights, justice and identity, especially among younger audience who might not even know that this type of discrimination existed. Even on a visual level, the film pays attention to details, the location, the costume design subtly mirroring Shazia's transformation, and so on. But most importantly, HAQ connects emotionally. It makes you feel the justice, suffocation, and the eventual triumph. If you find yourself angry or frustrated while watching Shazia's struggles, then the film did its job. Because empathy is the first step towards awareness. Now coming towards the characters, one of the HAQ's smartest creative choices is how it refuses to villainize Abbas Khan, played by Emraan Hashmi. They place him not as a cruel husband, but as a man torn between belief and guilt, faith and ego. He isn't evil. He's just a product of social conditioning. Unsure whether he's upholding his community's law or unintentionally hurting his wife. You see this conflict vividly in smallest of moments. His mother speaking on his behalf, his quiet entitlement at the dinner table, or his silence when it matters the most. He delivers a remarkably restrained performance, calm and subtle with the chaos, vulnerable yet strong in the exterior demeanor. The pre-Supreme Court meeting between Abbas and Shazia is one of the film's most heartful moments. A scene that balances warmth, regret and realism. In those brief exchanges, you sense how societal norms can overpower the most basic human emotions and how much maafi can exist between two peoples who were once bound by love. In interviews, Emraan Hashmi mentioned that as a Muslim, he felt a responsibility to portray the community and its nuances with authenticity, and he truly stood by that promise. Moving to Vartika Singh, as a second wife Saira, she brings both sensitivity and strength to her role. She navigates the complex layers of her character beautifully from vulnerability to empathy, from quiet understanding to the painful realization. Through her, the film explores how one woman can feel another's pain, yet remains bound by law, duty, and jealousy. Saira eventually becomes the catalyst for the legal and emotional storm that follows. What makes Saira's character powerful is that she's not written as villain either. And that's where HAQ finds its emotional maturity. Vartika Singh plays Saira with grace and restraint, calm, dignified, and quietly tragic. She never slips into caricature, and though her screen time is limited, she leaves a lasting impact. I would like to see more of her work in the future because based on this performance alone, she has the poise and emotional maturity. Let's see what's stored ahead in her future. Also, Danish Husain, portraying Shazia's father, stands as one of the most quietly powerful characters in the film. They often say that with a father's support, daughters can move mountains, and HAQ beautifully captures that truth. His role, though small, is emotionally pivotal. He is a middle-class, soft-spoken Qazi, torn between love for his daughter and the fear of societal judgment. He represents the countless Indian parents caught in between tradition and justice. His eyes tells an entire story of helplessness and eventual pride. As a Qazi who supports his daughter in society where women are often silenced, he helps her stand on her feet, teaches her the meaning of Quran, and gives her freedom even at the cost of his own well-being. In contrast, the character of Sheeba, Chadha, a Jain lawyer and women's rights advocate, feels underwritten. She is meant to be the Shazia's legal and moral guide, a mentor figure embodying wisdom, strength, and experience. On paper, her character is the voice of reason, the bridge between Shazia's emotion turmoil and her legal awakening. But unfortunately, it didn't happen on screen. Despite Sheeba Chadha's commanding presence, the role feels half-baked. She appears in only a handful of scenes, offers brief advice, and then vanishes. Her absence, it feels like a missed opportunity. With a more developed arc, perhaps a deeper mentor-mentee dynamic or a stronger courtroom involvement, this character could have added another compelling layer to the film's emotional and legal fabric. So my final thoughts? The first half may be slow and the courtroom drama could have been more elaborate, but HAQ is still a powerful and essential film, one that makes you think why HAQ matters in the first place. I watched it in Hyderabad and it was so heartwarming to see audiences, including many Muslims, cheering during the climax, embracing the film's message positively. At its core, HAQ isn't just about one woman's fight. It's about all the women, irrespective of their religion, who were told to adjust, to stay quiet, to not demand their rights. Yami Gautam's Shazia stands for all of us, calm but unbreakable. Yes, the writing falters and some characters could have been stronger, but what HAQ achieves is far more meaningful. It tries to reignite a conversation, reminding us that religion, law, and love must all bow before one simple truth. Justice is everyone's right. Whether you agree with its approach or not, HAQ forces you to look inward and ask yourself, when the moment comes, will you choose silence or your HAQ?
Thank you for watching.